recorded live from Studio 12A in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. You're listening to the Josh and Friends Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends Podcast. I am your host. My name is Josh. And this week I have a super special guest. He's the patriarch of the family, the head of the old Hanson household, and father to Terry, Todd, Tina, Tim, Ted, and Tom. His life on this planet has spanned over 9 decades, and he's been around for all of it. Everything from the stock market crash of 1929 to the Great Depression of the 1930s, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and the defeat of the Nazis in World War II. He's witnessed everything from the first man on the moon to the fall of the Berlin Wall, the golden age of television, and the invention of the World Wide Web. During his lifetime, he's lived through 15 presidents of the United States. Think about that for a second. 15 presidents. That's insane. He managed to run a successful business, all while raising a large family in the Midwest. He invested well, he retired early, and he's here with me today to discuss it all. This man is not only a true inspiration to myself and many others who have come across him, but he's also one of the most bright and intelligent individuals that I've ever met. So it is my pleasure to welcome to the show my grandfather and Mr. Dairy Queen himself, the one and only Mr. Norman Dub Hanson. Grandpa, welcome to the show. It's great having you on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, how you been?
Oh, pretty good.
Good to hear. So how you been doing with all this quarantine stuff?
Well, I'm just plain hunkered down here at the house. I'm lucky enough at my age where I can still drive the car. The drive-ins once in a while to the drive-up window. I don't go inside any place.
Oh, that's good.
I got a couple of people that do grocery shopping for me, and that's all I need.
Good to hear. So yeah, it's kind of a weird time we're living in with all this social distancing and everything. So
I made application to assisted living place, but I'd be a half of a prisoner in there. You wouldn't get any visitors, and you couldn't go in and out.
Right.
When you go in, you would be quarantined for 2 weeks in your room. Hell, that's no way to live.
No. And so how old are you now?
91.
91 years old. That's amazing.
I was born June 6, 1929. And that happens to be D-Day in Europe when we invaded Europe. Yeah, World War II.
That's wild. So, I mean, hopefully I'm as quick and energetic as you are when I'm your age. If I even make it there, it's amazing that you're 91 and doing as well as you are. You sound amazing.
Well, I guess people on my side of the family, they've got longevity. Is that what you call it?
Yeah. So, how long did your mom live till?
Mom lived to be 98.
Wow. And
my oldest sister, Phyllis, lived to be 98. And next in line is twin brothers, Wes and Wally. Wes died last year around Thanksgiving.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And Wally is still living, and he's going to be 96.
Wow. That's amazing.
My brother Harry died a couple of years ago. He was, I don't know, I think he was 92 or 93. I'm not sure.
Wow. So I'd like to talk a little bit about your amazing life. You've always been an inspiration to everybody in the family. So I'd like to kind of start from the beginning. So where were you born exactly?
I was born in township of Hortonia. That's the little village of Hortonville. It's about 20 miles west of Appleton.
Okay, so that's in Wisconsin. And
yes.
And how big was your family growing up?
Well, there was 4 boys and 2 girls.
4 boys and 2 girls. And so what were your parents like?
Well, they were, I don't know, I just call them common people.
Yeah?
They were good people.
Okay.
I never heard my mother swear in her life.
Wow.
I never, as far as I know, she was in a bar once in her lifetime.
Oh, wow.
And that was the evening when World War II ended.
Oh, wow.
My dad and his brother and their wives, they went into a tavern and had a glass of beer in Little Hortonville.
That's amazing. That is great.
They were common people. My mother had 8th grade education. My dad only had 5 years of grade school.
So you grew up on a farm.
Yes.
What kind of farm was this?
It was a dairy farm.
It was a dairy farm. Okay.
We raised cows and we milked the cows, and the milk went to a cheese factory.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what was your house like? Did you guys have like an outhouse, or did you guys have full plumbing and
just a pump and there wasn't any running water until World War II was over.
Oh, wow.
And then we installed a water system in the farm for the house and in the barn for the cattle.
Oh, wow.
I always kid we had running water before that, but we had to run out to the pump and get it.
Now, you mentioned that you had a dairy farm and you had farm animals like cows and stuff like that. Now, did you ever become close to the animals? Did you ever become close to the animals and then had to kill them? And then I can imagine like anything else, like they're animals. Did you ever become close to any of the animals?
Well, sure. You knew each cow individually. You knew what their temperament was. And
did you guys ever have to eat one of the animals? I mean, put them down and then and here you are having a hamburger of one of your animals?
Yeah. Well, that was done when I was younger.
Yeah.
Not when I was older.
Gotcha.
When I was younger, in the winter months, in the early winter months, like November, usually first part of December, the neighbors would get together and then they would butcher cattle. Usually you'd butcher a cow that wasn't a very good cow anymore. She had something wrong usually with their memory system, that they didn't produce milk the way they should. And we didn't have any regular beef cattle like they have today. We are either Hereford or Black Angus. We never had any of those. So you just butchered a cow that was not able to produce anymore.
Oh, wow.
You'd kill the cow and you'd skin it out and hang it up, and the neighbors would all get together and they would put up the beef in roast and hamburger, and they would make sausage. They even made what they called blood sausage. When you killed the cow, you would cut its throat, and then you would put a pail underneath it and catch the blood, and that blood then you would add that with different things, and you'd make blood sausage.
Sounds like a horror movie.
And blood sausage. Huh?
It sounds like a horror movie.
It's not a horror movie. You can buy blood. If you know where to go, you can buy blood sausage.
Yeah,
today.
no, I've definitely heard of it.
Yeah, there's all different kinds of cuts and things, and these are things that you learn when you're on a farm. People today they have no idea how an animal is slaughtered.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't.
It's just like a horse. I was born at the time when you cultivated with horses, and of course. Let me see. We got our first farm tractor in 1941 in the spring of the year. And in the fall of the year was Pearl Harbor in December.
Oh, wow.
And so, goodness sakes, I haven't done this since the 1940s, but I can still harness a horse yet.
Wow. So you mentioned Pearl Harbor. Do you remember where you were when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
No.
You just, okay.
All I remember is when it happened.
Yeah.
Now, my twin brothers, we've got a family picture taken, and it was taken in 1942. Weston Wally graduated from high school, I think, in the spring of 42. And after that, we had a family picture taken. And it was shortly after that Weston Wally enlisted in the service in World War II.
Wow.
Wally got into the Army and the Signal Corps, and Wes was in the Navy, and he was on the battleship, the USS West Virginia.
Wow.
And then a few years later, Harry got in service. But he got in about the time the war was over, and he got shipped over to the Philippines. And he was there a few months, and then he came back home, and everybody got home safe.
Oh, that's good to hear. So you actually didn't fight in the war. You didn't go into the war, but your brothers did.
I was too young.
Oh, you were too young.
Too young. Yeah, I was living on the farm.
Gotcha. So you stayed back and helped to run the family farm.
Yeah.
And is that where you learned to?
I was 12 years old. I was 12 years old when World War II started.
Wow. And is this where you learned how to cook and how to become a seamstress and a handyman of all sorts?
When I was really young, probably about 10 years old, 8 years old, I had three brothers, and they would help Dad out in the barn with the cattle. And my mother, she had a few years where she was sickly. She had gallstones and a few other problems. And my oldest sister was gone. She worked in Appleton at the Lutheran Aid Insurance Company. And I was at home, and of course, the three brothers had helped Dad, and I'd stay in the house. My job was to help Mother. So if I got any beginning in cooking or a way of life, that was it.
Wow. Now, so you mentioned your brothers, Wes and Wally, they went to fight in the war. Now, did they go to Japan, like in that area, or did they go to Europe?
Wally, he got into the Signal Corps, and he ended up going by boat to India.
Oh, wow.
And they jumped on one of these C-47s, these transport planes, and he flew over the Himalaya mountains, they called it flying over the hump.
Yeah.
Into China.
Wow.
And he ended up, this was interesting. He ended up in northeast China. And he ended up in a little town called Yinan. And the Americans had a group of soldiers, but they had a base in northern China. And right nearby was a communist China base. See, China at that time, China was run by a guy by the name of Chiang Kai-shek. Do you remember him? You ever hear that name?
I have heard that name, yeah. I don't know too much about him.
Okay. Chiang Kai-shek was a popular guy in China. But then you had the communist leaders. They were on the right up where Wally was. And you had Zhou Enlai and Mao Zedong, two guys. They were communist Chinese, and they would invite the American brass would invite these communist leaders over. They'd have movies or probably a meal or something like that or whatever. And Wally, he says, I used to have to run they would show a movie, and he says, I had to run the projector. And he says, once in a while, he says, I would run it backwards. And of course, everyone knew. He says they would think that was so funny, they just roll on the ground.
Yeah, because it's very new back then, too, right? Like video.
Those are the few things that I remember him talking about when he got back. That's quite unique, isn't it?
That's interesting. That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, how many times does a guy in your family get to see close by, within a few feet, or communist leaders that lead the country?
Not very often, that's for sure. So,
okay, now Wesley was on the battleship U.S. West Virginia. It got hit, and I don't know, the battleship got damaged, and he got transferred off of it. And they fixed it back out, and it went out to sea. And he told about the time that, because he wasn't on the ship anymore, but it got into battle, and part of the structure that he was working in took a direct hit, and it blew it all apart and killed everybody.
Whoa.
And he just said, boy, that could have been me.
Oh, my gosh. That's crazy. That'll mess with your head right there.
Yeah. Now, my brother Harry that went to the Philippines, he never got into combat or anything. The war was over.
Oh, gotcha. Wow. So when you met Grandma Muggs, Margaret.
Yeah.
Where did you meet Grandma?
Right at the end of the war. These were summer jobs. There was a canning factory in Hortonville, and at the time they were canning peas, little round peas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I was emptying carts that held the peas, and the peas were on a conveyor belt. And the women would sit on both sides of this conveyor belt, and they would pick out the leaves or pieces of the pods which the leaves were in to get everything, and everything would fall into a bin, and I would empty the bins. And I was standing someplace, and Muggs motioned for me to come and empty the bin. Well, she was a good-looking chick, so I just got acquainted and eventually got a date with her.
Awesome.
So that's how that started.
That's interesting. Right on.
So I met Muggs in a canning factory.
At the canning factory for the peas.
Yeah.
Awesome.
In the little town of Hortonville.
Hortonville. Wow. So how old were you guys? Were you guys teenagers? Or were you?
I don't know, 16, 17.
Okay, so yeah, you guys were teenagers. And how long was it after that when you guys decided to get married?
Oh, we were married in 49.
Gotcha, okay. And
Yeah.
you guys have some of the most interesting nicknames that I've ever heard of. Dub
Yeah.
and Muggs. Dub and Muggs. What's the origin?
Yeah, I got my name when I was real small, and nobody knows how it got started. Nobody remembers. I was just tagged Dub.
And it just stuck, huh?
And yeah.
Interesting.
It has nothing to do with playing golf or anything like that.
And how about Muggs? Do you know Muggs? Like how she got her name?
Well, Muggs is a nickname of Margaret.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that you guys have those
Margaret
nicknames,
is-
though. They're great.
Yeah, you got Margaret and
Yeah, I've seen old pictures of you guys. You guys were a good-looking couple.
yeah,
Now, so how long were you guys married?
54 years.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then, so how many kids did you guys end up having?
7.
7 kids. And for some reason, all the boys in the family started with the letter T. Was there any
Yeah.
kind of reasoning for that, or is it just kind of like a fun thing for you guys to do? Or
We just got started at it. And, yeah.
I love it.
And if you ever have a family, don't do it. Because I'll tell you, it gets confusing sometimes.
So you have the oldest at Terry, and then you have Todd,
Yeah.
and then who's next in order?
Your mother, Tina,
Mom Tina.
and then Cindy.
The girls were named C, Christine and Cindy, and then you went back to the T's with the guys.
Yeah.
They had Ted and Tim and Tom and.
Don't ask me how to explain it because I can't.
So my mom, she was born in 1955. What was she like growing up? Was she a happy kid?
Yeah. Kids were all happy.
Yeah.
They were all good kids. We never had any real problems with any of them. They were, all the kids were healthy. Nobody was crippled, so we were thankful for that.
That's good. Yeah,
But,
Did you ever have to punish any of the kids? I know that when I was talking to my mom, she was like, "Yeah, we didn't really get punished for much. We just
nobody ever founded the kids hurt them or anything like that. Never mind, they got a good spanking on the behind when they didn't behave. They never got away from that, but they were never abused.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's good. So you worked at the farm. You kind of like took over the farm, or did you start a new farm? How did that work?
That dairy farm was in the Hanson family for 100 years.
Wow.
And my dad had it, and let me see, Muggs and I were married in 49, and I worked for a Buick dealer in New London for a couple of years, and I knew that I'd never have anything if I worked for somebody else. So I told my dad I'd like to come out and see if we could work something out so I could run the farm. So
Wow.
Muggs and I moved out to the farm in 1951. And I was there 10 years.
Gotcha.
And the last 3 years I was there, my back acted up. And my 1 year I was laid up. I couldn't do anything for a month.
Oh,
the
man.
next year it was 2 months. And the last year I was there, it was 6 months.
Oh, man.
So the doctor told me that if you don't get off this farm, we're going to have to clear you off.
Wow.
So at that time, the Dairy Queen was for sale. And
So what year did you buy the Dairy Queen?
I started farming in 1951. And I bought the Dairy Queen in 61.
Wow.
So I
And
ran the Dairy Queen 20 years.
20 years.
61 to 81.
Wow.
And then I sold it.
That's amazing. That was one of my early memories too, is going to the Dairy Queen, and that was really cool. So you mainly sold like cold treats there?
Well, we had all the regular things that Dairy Queen had, all their cones and sundaes and malts, and they had what they call their royal treats, the banana splits and so on. And the food end, we sold a foot-long hot dog, which is nothing more than a double-length hot dog. The buns, the local bakery made the buns. And
Wow.
then I also sold a hot beef sandwich and a barbecue sandwich. The beef was roast beef that was sliced, and the hamburger was, the barbecue was made out of hamburger. That was the limit of sandwiches that I sold.
Okay, so you didn't sell like a lot of like hot food or anything like that. It was mainly kind of like the treat side of business there?
I would say that the food was probably about 30% of my business.
30%. Okay. What was the biggest seller as far as the treats?
I never kept track of the number.
Gotcha. Okay.
The only thing I was interested in the end of the year was how many dollars.
Yeah. The true businessman right there. There you go.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the name of the game.
Exactly. So, Grandpa, you did a lot of upkeep on that place and a lot of improvements. This is where the handyman in you came out because you actually built a dock with stairs in the back of the restaurant so people could, like, when they're boating in the summer and stuff, they could come up, dock their boat, and then they could come up and get some treats and drinks and stuff like that. That's smart.
Yeah, there was no place to get from the level of the Dairy Queen lot to get into a boat. So I built some steps that you went down to the river level, and then I had a dock down there that was framed in lumber, and I had styrofoam bats underneath it for flotation, and it worked out real good.
That's awesome. So you also had, I've heard some famous people stop by the Dairy Queen over the years. One of them was Bart Starr of the Packers.
Yeah.
The great Bart Starr.
Bart was one of the people that helped found the Rawhide Industries. Rawhide was an organization where they took kids that were uncontrollable at home or were always in trouble in school and stuff like that. And they had a staff at Rawhide that had a Christian background. And they would tutor the kids there and see that they got through school, and they straightened an awful lot of kids out there.
Wow.
And of course, Bart was one of the people that helped found it. And of course, Green Bay and the Rawhide, I was right in line with it. So Brett, he would come and he'd get a bunch of treats and so on. And most of the people didn't recognize him because he wore a big pair of sunglasses. But he was a nice guy. He
that's
really
awesome.
was.
That's awesome.
And he was a good customer.
That's awesome. That's great. So he went there more than once.
Oh, he went there many, many times.
Oh, that's cool.
For years he did.
Oh, that's great. Now, all your kids kind of like worked there too, right? You had like a built-in employees.
They all did, yeah.
That must have worked out pretty well. You could trust people, I guess, right? I mean, hopefully they're not going to rob you or anything. They're coming back to your house.
Kids need some responsibility, and it was a good thing. They learned how to deal with people and how to learn to buy and sell things. And make change and give them some responsibility.
Yeah.
It never hurt anyone to work,
Yeah, definitely. It teaches responsibility. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Earn a paycheck.
Right.
I remember going back, it had to be the early 80s. And I went to visit Tim, and Tim was working there. And Tim got me a dilly bar and a hot fudge sundae. And I was pretty excited about that. I don't know if it was at the same time, but that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
So what were your hours of operation back then? How early and late did you guys go there?
Well, you mean when we opened the store up?
Yeah. When did the store open and how late did it go?
We usually opened up in the middle of February. It's quite cold at that time, but you'd be surprised how your old customers would come back and snow would be flying some days. And then we'd run till the middle of October.
Oh, wow.
And then we'd shut it down for the winter.
So you ended up selling the Dairy Queen in the early 80s?
Yeah, 81.
81. And you did well. You worked hard for 20 years at that place, sold the Dairy Queen. And is that when you actually retired?
Yes.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So
I was 52.
Wow. See, that's inspiration right there, man.
If I had it to do over, I'd have found something else. It was about the same time we started to build this house north of New London. And I built a big workshop in the basement.
You mentioned that you built that house. You said it was north of New London?
Yes.
And that was like out in the woods. I love that house. I have this video of Tim. I don't know if you've ever seen this video. It's kind of like Tim walking around like the last day of being there. And he's kind of like talking about all the different things that happened at the house and stuff like that, all the memories and everything. It's pretty good. I'll have to send that to you so you could watch that. It's pretty funny. And I love that. That was a great place. How long did you live there?
Oh, boy. Well, we built that probably a year and a half before I sold the Dairy Queen.
Oh, wow.
We were there 20-some years that we lived there. March died in 2003.
In 2003?
And it was probably something like a year and a half later, I sold it.
Gotcha. No. Going back to Muggs, so when did you first notice that she kind of was starting to lose her memory and have issues as far as that?
Well, it came on slow, but then all of a sudden things started to stand out. Like one day she always went at the end of the week. I can't remember if it was a Friday or a Saturday. She'd go down to Judy's beauty shop. She always had her hair washed and set every week. So one day she was driving the car and she got halfway out the driveway and the car stopped. And I was working out on the lawn someplace and she just sat there. And she kind of just blanked out like she didn't know where she was and so on.
Oh, man.
And then her eyes weren't very good, so I took her to have her eyes checked. And the optometrist told me, he says her eyes are so bad, she cannot drive a car anymore.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy. So on the way home, Muggs was, in one way, she wasn't violent of any kind,
mm-hmm.
or she didn't put up a fuss, that I don't think she ever realized what was happening to her. She never said anything about it or elaborated in any way. But on the way home from the optometrist, I told her, I said, that Dr. Grigno told me that you're not supposed to be driving a car because your eyes are bad. Well, she had glaucoma. She had detached retina, and she had an operation on that, and it was a failure.
Oh, no.
And on the way home, we stopped by the golf course, and there's a sign alongside of the road. And I said, what does that sign say? And she says, I can't read it. Well, the sign said, stop sign ahead,
Yeah.
So I told her, I says, if you can't read that sign, I says, it's not that you may wreck the car and hurt yourself. But I says, the problem is if you can't run this car decently, you're liable to run into somebody else and kill somebody. And she accepted that fact, and she never talked about it once.
Wow.
But it only took been about a couple of years. One year we took her along up to Canada fishing, but all she wanted to do is ride in the back seat of the car and lay down on the cushions. The reason we took her along was that I didn't have a place to put her or anyone to take care of her.
So when was she actually diagnosed with her type of dementia?
Well, a nurse told me at the doctor's office one day when I had her in, she advised me to go to Oshkosh, a town about 30 miles away. There was a specialist down there that specialized in diseases of the brain. And when I got down there, then I remember Ted's wife, Michelle, went along, and they gave her an examination. And they told us it was not Alzheimer's. And, of course, Michelle thought that was great, that at least you don't have Alzheimer's, Well, hell, what she had was worse than Alzheimer's.
Oh, man.
Because she only lasted a few years.
Oh.
Alzheimer's, is probably 10 years or so.
Wow.
Yeah. But every time we would go down for an evaluation was every month or two, she would lose one half of her ability to think.
Oh, my goodness. That's so terrible.
Just went downhill. Yeah.
Yeah. So she declined pretty fast.
Yeah. She would sleep in her own bedroom, back in the corner, and then she'd get up during the night, and I was always afraid that she would fall, and she was getting in that shape,
Oh, man.
So I thought, well, it'd be nice if I could help her go to the bathroom when she got up at night, So I put a board across from the dresser to a table that she had to go by to get to the bathroom. And there was an old bell that I had. I still got the bell. It's an old bell that one of the kids used to use for around the Dairy Queen Billy wagon.
Mm-hmm.
So I put the bell on this board so that when she'd get up, she'd bump the board. The bell would fall on the floor and it'd wake me up and I could help her.
Wow.
So morning came and nothing, no sound. So I go in her room and here's the board sitting up, leaning on the wall. The bell was on top of the dresser. She had got up in the night, put everything away, went to the bathroom, and went back to bed.
Oh, so she took the bell and moved it?
Yeah. Yeah. She moved the bell so it didn't make any noise. So she put one over on me.
Oh, that's funny.
It's funny how those things work.
Yeah.
But it wasn't too long. And one night she did fall. And when she fell, she got one of her lungs collapsed.
Oh, my gosh.
And that was the end. And I had to put her in a nursing home.
Damn.
I just couldn't take care of her anymore.
Yeah. How long was she in the nursing home for?
She probably lasted less than a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awful. Well, that's nothing good to see, especially after being married for 50 some odd years.
Yeah.
So it was after that, obviously, and you had met Audrey, but you had known the family, Audrey and her family, for many decades, correct?
Yeah. Muggs went to school in New London.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to school in Hortonville. And, of course, Audrey was from Hortonville.
Oh, okay.
And her husband was in the same class as Muggs was.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I knew Audrey since fourth grade. There was a little Lutheran school down in Hortonville. That's when I was on the farm.
That's amazing.
And then we went to Hortonville High School. I didn't graduate, but Audrey did, and then she went on to become a nurse. And then I ended up running the farm. When I sold the farm, we moved to New London. And Audrey lived out the back door on the next street. Our lots joined in the back. We didn't know that at the time when we bought the house, but Well, we became friends, and we would get together once in a while. Not real. They weren't the closest of friends, but
Hmm.
we knew them well. All of Audrey's kids and all of our kids all went to the Lutheran school in New London.
Wow.
So later on in 2 years, Muggs and Audrey would go golfing together over at Cedar Springs, and they must have golfed together for 10 years. And every Christmas we'd get together and we'd have Tom and Jerry's. So we'd get together once in a while and so on. And then, of course, Buzz developed cancer in his colon, and it spread all over, and he died in 2000. And Muggs died in 2003, and it was only a couple of months after Muggs died that Audrey stopped in at the house just to say hi, because it was just like she always did. She'd always stop and pick up Muggs, and they'd go golfing.
Yeah.
And Audrey says, Dubby, she says, sometime we ought to go golfing. And I says, yeah, that'd be pretty good. And we visited a half an hour or so. But we went up fishing up to Canada. I did with all my kids.
Wow.
And I got back home, and one day I was just sitting there thinking, Audrey called me, so I called her up. I says, Audrey, you talked about going golfing sometime. I says, do you suppose we could get together and golf? She says, sure. So she made a reservation to golf over here at Vic Camelot. Well, to make a long story short, that's how come Audrey and I got together.
Interesting.
For a game of golf. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Golf brought you together, or reunited you. So I remember, and her daughter was kind of like the executive assistant of that Chef Paul Prudhomme in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And yeah.
When after Audrey and I got married, we had a party here over at the lake of which you were here.
Yeah, that was fun.
And Chef Paul came up here and he cooked for us. And Sean was Audrey's oldest daughter. And I don't know how she met Chef Paul, but over the years she became the CEO of his spice company.
Oh, yeah, so the CEO. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, that was a fun party, man. That was like they even had a band playing, like kind of like jazz music, and it was right on the lake.
Yeah. Tons
of people there.
Well, one guy cooked a turkey. Some of the guys cooked a turkey inside of a garbage can.
A trash can, yeah.
Yeah.
And they had a pig roast?
Mike Toller had a roast hog.
Yeah, I remember that.
Chef cooked. Man, we had so much food. We had a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people there. That was a big party.
Yeah.
That was fun. I was glad I documented that. I got to, film that and preserve some of that stuff as well. So that was kind of fun. Of course, I always gravitate towards Tim because he's always, joking around and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Now, I don't want to keep you too long, but we do have.
No, I'm perfect. I'm perfect.
You're doing all right. You're doing all right. Good. Okay. So
yeah, you keep right on the going.
So I'm not sure if you realize this, but this is pretty amazing. You've actually lived through 16 U.S. presidents. How amazing is that? That's pretty wild.
I remember the first one I voted for was Eisenhower.
Eisenhower, okay.
And this bunch over here that I married into, Audrey's family, they are die-hard Republicans.
So they're...
if the only damn thing was left to vote for was the elephant, they'd vote for that.
So yeah, you're what are you? You're kind of like what, middle of the road, or what do you consider yourself?
Yeah,
kind of
no. I've always considered myself an independent.
Gotcha.
I vote for the best man. So over the years, I have voted for most of the presidents that were in office. I voted for Reagan. I voted for Jimmy Carter. I voted for Obama. and Eisenhower. Who else was in there? I voted for Tricky Dick.
Nixon?
Yeah.
But yeah, you were born in what year again? It was 1928? 29. Okay, so yeah, Calvin Coolidge was president. Maybe you just missed the Calvin Coolidge was 1923 to 1929. So
yeah, well, you see, I didn't vote until I was 21.
Right. But you were alive during all these presidents. Maybe not Calvin Coolidge because you probably left in January.
I don't remember any of them.
Yeah, Hoover and Roosevelt and Truman.
Yeah, before I was able to vote for Roosevelt, he kicked the bucket.
Yeah, yikes.
And then Truman was. I didn't get to vote for Truman either.
Did you vote for Nixon or JFK back in 1960?
I voted for Kennedy.
Kennedy? Do you remember where you were when he was assassinated?
Yes, I do. I was taking my mother to catch a train in Appleton because Audrey, I'm not sure of all these dates, but I think Audrey had a baby and she went down to be with her. And I remember we were going into Appleton and I was crossing the railroad tracks when it came over the car radio that Kennedy was assassinated.
Wow. That must have been a crazy, wild experience. Like that's pretty shocking.
Another one that I remember, the Twin Towers. I was sitting watching television in the new house up in Lebanon, up on Church Road, when that one happened. Muggs and I were having breakfast in, I think it was Minneapolis. Were we on our way home from visiting your mother?
I'm not sure.
When this McVeigh blew up the federal building.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Timothy McVeigh? 95?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. The timing there. Yeah. Yikes.
I don't remember. We were at an airport when it happened.
Wow.
Isn't that funny how you associate those with something?
Yeah. I mean, there's those moments in time where you always remember where you are. Like, I was in school when the Space Shuttle Challenger blew up. And I just remember, I
can't remember what it was.
Well, I remember.
I can't remember what it was.
It was big for kids in school at the time because that teacher was supposed to be going up in space. It was like the first time a teacher was going to be going up in space. So like everybody had wheeled in those TVs and everybody's watching it with their, the classrooms and everything like that. And I just remember our teacher turning it off and then she started crying and I was like, this is awkward.
I remember her name was Christine McCullough.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Wow, you have good memory.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I do have certain things. Well, if you ask me what time the bars closed last night, I could tell you. No, that's a bunch of bull. I'm just telling you.
So, speaking of memories, there's a lot of crazy inventions that have happened during your lifetime. What was the greatest invention, in your opinion, that affected you during your lifetime over the years? Because there's been a lot.
I can remember what I find remarkable is a year ago, the middle of July, we came home from fishing in Canada and I bought my first smartphone.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's a big one.
And I've been learning on that ever since. I'm computer illiterate. I have a terrible time with the computer.
Yeah. Well, that's the genius of a smartphone. They kind of like make it easier to learn things like that, which, that's Steve Jobs, man. He,
well, I can ask Google a question and I like that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You ask it a question, it'll like come up with some sort of answer for you. Yeah. So like, do you remember getting your first TV? I guess that came out, to the main public. They started selling those in like 1949. The TVs.
I don't think we got ours until the early 50s.
Yeah.
53 or something like that. just because TVs came out, there wasn't any stations developed around this part of the state.
Yeah, you have to have a tower that broadcasts stuff to watch, I guess. Yeah, so.
I remember we had a state, he was either a senator or a representative, I don't know. He was from Wausau. And he, of course, being in Congress, in Washington, D.C., he bought the rights for a television station in Wausau.
Mm.
Well, boy, he ended up to be an extremely wealthy person. But he had the inside track.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, so they came out with the microwave oven in 1967, the home computer in 1977. Not that you had all these right when they came out, because I didn't even have. Our family didn't even have a home computer until the 90s when the internet came out, and then you got to see space travel, first man on the moon. How was that?
Yeah.
That was still one of the most watched events in history.
I remember when they bombed Iraq, and CNN had a hotel. Their base in Baghdad, and they were taking pictures of it, and we were watching it.
Yeah, it was like live on TV. Yeah, that was crazy. It looked like all like fireworks and stuff going all over the screen, and it was nuts. Yeah, it was like the first time you actually get to see like full-on war as it begins on national television live. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
I often thought it was funny. Old Hussein, he had his palaces built all over the country. They found the son of a bitch in the sewer. Yeah,
in that little that hole in the ground. Yeah, it didn't.
Well, he had nowhere to hide. He got what is coming to him.
Wasn't a great ending for his reign there. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So you were born in 1929.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, one thing that you can say, that you are younger than sliced bread, because that came out in 1928. So kudos to you on that one. You're actually younger than sliced bread.
I don't remember that. I don't remember
So when you built that house in New London, I just remember you had all those like power tools and all those big machines downstairs, because you had that big hobby of yours. Which was woodworking and stuff like that. How did you haul that stuff down there? Was that piece by piece?
Well, when I built that house, I had good wide stairways going down, and I planned that house so that an outside entrance went right straight down the steps. So, and down on the bottom of the steps, there was another room that had a door in it, and I could open up that door. In other words, I could get a long piece of timber, like a 2x4 or something like that, down in the basement with ease. For the average home, you couldn't do that.
Oh, that's smart.
And that room down in the bottom of the stairs was reinforced with 10 inches of concrete in the ceiling and the sides. And that room was built primarily for a tornado shelter.
Oh, wow.
And then I later found out that it made an excellent fruit cellar.
Yeah.
So I glued on 2 inches of styrofoam on the inside of it, and it had lights on it, and it had ventilation in it, and I ended up making it a fruit cellar.
I remember that.
And I could keep all our produce and everything like that. And it ended up that I made homemade wine, and I'd keep all my wine in there.
Wow. Yeah, that was awesome. I remember that. Yeah.
I put a lot of effort in making wine. And I'm telling you that I produced some of the worst slop you ever saw. I never made a batch of wine that I was extremely proud of.
So you respect when you taste a good wine?
Well, Most of it I had to hide because if somebody tasted it, I'd be afraid they'd die.
Did you ever make any moonshine?
No.
No moonshine.
No, I never. Well, now you have to have a skill to make moonshine.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
and you have to know how to do that.
Right.
Now, God, he monkeyed around a little bit with that.
Now, you've always been a good handyman. Very smart, creative, innovative. One of the things.
I've always had a knack for fixing things.
Absolutely.
Something gets broke, I can fix it.
Well, you've also.
My problem is,
yeah,
I never had any education like Ted's Jimmy. He's an engineer. Now, Jimmy can sit down at a table and he can draw a diagram of some workable object,
mm-hmm.
and put it on paper and hand it to somebody else, and they can build something just exactly like that. Now, I am the individual that can fix things and build and so on, but I can't put it on paper.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's very different skills. That's for sure.
I should have been a mechanical engineer.
Well, yeah, I think you did pretty well doing what you did, but
yeah.
I remember I still have some actual things that you made me back. Gosh, it has to be sometime in the 80s or early 90s or something. I don't know. But I still have like a little wooden gavel that you made for me. I have a wooden piggy bank pig that you made. And they look great. Yeah, it was a piggy bank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you made that.
I remember making you guys a clock one time.
Yep, I still have the clock too. Still have a clock.
You got that clock in?
I still have it. I still have all that stuff.
Good.
Yeah, I don't get rid of it. I keep it.
I've got that same clock. I don't know how many of them I made that one year. I probably gave them at Christmas time.
Oh, yeah?
Mine still works. Mine still works real good.
Yeah, mine still works. I just have to put a battery in it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, and you also did some other kind of creative things. Like you actually had the first can crusher that I even saw before people had those can crushers. Did you make that, or did you buy that?
Well, I did not make that.
Oh, you did not make that. Okay.
And the guy that made that was Aaron Panco.
Oh, okay.
He was a boyhood friend of mine, and he ended up working at Miller Electric in Appleton. That's where they make electric welders. And he retired from there, and we were old friends, and we had cottages down the river right next to each other. And he also was my hunting partner up at my hunting land.
I remember Tim always talking about like Aaron Panco, and he was gonna be like, "Hey, dabber, 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 dabber."
Yeah.
And you guys always playing cards. Yeah, you guys had a good time down there, down in the cottages. Like Andy and I are running around, playing around, goofing off, and then you guys are playing in the river and stuff like that. And then you guys are over there playing cards and everything. It's good times.
Yeah.
You also had that mailbox thing, because you guys were in the woods, in the deep woods, and you cut out like a hole in the wooded area, and then when you'd pull you're gonna have to explain this to me. So
well,
like
when the mailman would come, he would open up the door in the mailbox, and when he would pull it open, there was a flag there on a string, and then when he pulled it, it came loose from the door, and it would fly up in the air straight. And when the flag was up, that meant the mailman was there.
That's so great. Big giant, big flag.
Otherwise, the only reason in the last 15 years I can't do anything over here is because I don't have any of my power tools. I sold them all when I sold the house over there and moved over here at the lake.
Gotcha.
The ones that were down in the basement that I built everything with. Yeah.
Right.
You cannot build anything out of wood, especially hardwood, like oak or hardwoods like that. Oak or elm or maple or black walnut. Those woods are hard. And if you don't have power tool, you just can't work with them.
Yeah, yeah. So, Grandpa, I'm always curious about what an average day of people's diets consist of, and especially you. You lived so long, and you're pretty healthy, pretty smart. You're not pretty smart. You're very smart, and you don't have like too many health problems for you're 91 years old, doing well. What does a normal breakfast for you entail?
Well, first of all, people that live long, it is in your genes.
Sure.
You've had friends already where they know of people, and the guy says, well, geez, my dad was only 53 and he had a heart attack and died. Or my dad has got diabetes, or my dad has got some other damn disease, And my family don't live long. Well, my family lives a long time. I remember my doctor said to me, I was telling him about my mother, she lived up at St. Joe's in New London in a nursing home. And she was 98 years old when she died. And my doctor said, W, he says, you're lucky that you were born of healthy parents. And that's really what it amounts to.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
If there's a bunch of man-killing diseases on one side of the family or another, you're not going to live very long. I'm sitting here right now, and I'm 91. And I have a very hard time thinking of people that are left when I went to high school with. I just can't, that were in my class, The hell are all gone.
Yeah, that's
I've got
strange.
I got Hartman Schrader. Now, that was my oldest sister's husband, John Seifert. I don't know if you remember him or not.
I've heard the name.
Yeah, but anyway, his nephew and I went to school together, and he's living in a nursing home now. There's another group they live a long time. Now, he's the only guy left that I went to school with that I can remember. They're all dead.
Oh.
We had a sheephead club that Muggs and I belonged to. There was 3 other couples. There was 8 of us in all, and I'm the only one left. I had 9 guys that played sheephead, but when I had that house out at in New London, they're all dead.
That must be weird.
Well, it's disgusting in a lot of ways because the hell of it is you have no one to chum with.
Yeah. I mean, It leaves kind of like, what, family?
Well, you like to call somebody up and say, how are you doing? But that's the way it is.
Yeah, so, definitely longevity in the family and, good health certainly is major. Lifestyle, I'm sure, you see all these rock stars dying of drugs and alcohol and all that good stuff. That can't help things either. But
you talked before, like what do you eat and everything else.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I eat just about anything. I don't care what it is.
You don't eat like anything regular on a regular basis?
What do I want?
So in the morning, I usually have a couple eggs and coffee or whatever. I mean, do you have like a go-to that you normally eat for breakfast?
No, I have a big variety.
Yeah.
I had bacon and eggs. Yesterday I had ham and eggs. I eat a lot of packet cereal. I'll mix that in. I like shredded wheat. I like Wheaties and Special K and stuff like that.
Good variety. Mix it up.
Slice of banana on. This morning I got up and I had some blueberries left in the jar in the refrigerator. And I thought, well, if I don't eat these, they're going to go to waste.
Yeah. Do you have any?
So I get out some biscuit, and I add milk, and I made a nice thin batter for pancakes. I threw the blueberries in there, and I had blueberry pancakes this morning for breakfast.
There you go. Sounds good.
But I always have coffee. At night, I usually have I'm drinking something, and I prefer a brandy sweet old-fashioned with olives.
Do you have one of those every day?
Well, if I don't have one of those every day, I have a glass of red wine
Gotcha.
or two.
Not one of the wines that you made back in the day.
No. No, I buy wine. And I like a sweet wine. You can take all this Cabernet Sauvignon that they grow in California, and they get a high price for the bottles of it. They can have it all. That stuff is so dry it puckers your mouth. I want a nice sweet wine.
Nice sweet wine. Gotcha. So,
yeah, the wine I buy is a cheap wine. It's Lambrusco. It comes from Italy.
Ah.
And it's only $7. I have bought it for $7 already for a 1 3/4 liter bottle. That's a big bottle.
Wow. I'll have to check it out. Highly recommended by Dub Hanson.
There you go.
So, do you have any weaknesses in the sweets department? I know mine's M&Ms.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I like them. See, I like them all.
Sweet wine, sweet chocolates, and
I'll get a sweet tooth. I like my favorite candy bar is Almond Joy.
Those are good.
I like coconut, and it's got almonds in it and then milk chocolate. That's a good bar.
That is good.
I stay away from nuts that are very hard to eat and chew. I'll tell you, I do eat a lot of cashews.
Cashews, those are good.
Just grab a handful and eat them. I buy them in a big jar. They're easy to chew and so on. I've got dentures, and they're not the easiest to live with. Now, when I buy a steak, I only buy the good grade steaks.
Gotcha.
I can't eat it.
Has to melt in your mouth instead of just chewing it for
That's
days.
Right.
Yeah, gotcha. So you've taken a lot of vacations over the years. What's the furthest you've ever traveled?
I think Hawaii is probably the furthest.
That's a pretty long distance there.
We got out there in 72. Audrey and I went to Punta Cana.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, that's Eastern Caribbean, but that was a nice place to stay. The thing I remember about that is I've never had a menu I enjoyed so in my life.
Really?
We were there for one week, and every night on the menu, you could eat all the lobster and all the steak that you could eat.
Oh man, you're making me hungry.
You could just take it out and go back for seconds, and you could go back for thirds. And I was taught never to waste food.
Yeah,
you would never get me taking a pail of lobsters and leaving it on my plate. I always ate what I took. But God, that was good to have all the lobster and all the steak you could eat.
Oh yeah, that sounds pretty awesome, and it was good too, right?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
We got to Punta Cana. We got to Audrey and I got into Jamaica. I think 3 times.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
awesome. Have you ever been to Europe?
No.
Never been to Europe or anything like that?
Never got there.
Gotcha.
Audrey had been there, but after you get in your 80s, traveling is not as much fun as it used to be. Your body is good. You get tired. You get out of wind. It's a struggle in airports. You'll land in here, but hell, your flight out is 2 concourses away. Well, you got to go like hell to get there.
Yeah.
And that, when you're old, that is not easy.
No, I don't blame you at all. And then airports just in general are not fun places anymore. I was talking to my mom. We were kind of talking about traveling pre 9/11, and how, you and Grandma would be able to walk us right up to the gate, and you could like see us fly off. That's you can't even do that anymore. See,
No.
that was fun back in the day. It was actually kind of fun to travel back in the day, and yeah, it's not fun anymore.
I had an experience, 2 of them. One in Milwaukee, where you get one of these guys from the TSA,
Oh boy.
and I don't know. He must have looked at me and didn't like me, or somebody ate his damn breakfast.
Oh no.
I don't know what was wrong, but he just kept on putting those wands all over me, and he would press me and stuff like this, and then he made me take my belt off, and he'd pull my pants out, and he'd look down in my shorts and all this goddamn stuff. Finally, I got sick of it. I said, Jesus Christ, man, what the hell are you looking for? I said, why? Do I look like Osama bin Laden?
Oh, God. Yeah, you don't exactly fit the profile of a terrorist.
No, Christ, I'm an old man. And he didn't give a damn.
No. Yeah.
He just kept right on.
Jeez.
The other one I had was one time Sean invited Audrey and I to go along with her to New York. And we were on our way home. And I was going through, and I had all my toiletries, in my, the little bag where you keep, or what do you call it? Where you keep all your shaving stuff. My shaving kit.
Sure.
Okay. And I didn't, and the rule was you're supposed to put all these small items, and especially you can't have anything big in volume of liquids, and you keep them all in a plastic bag.
Yeah.
And you asked me why I didn't do it. But the girl dumped the bag out on the counter, and then she gives me a lecture on you're supposed to put all this stuff in the bag, and she got a little bag, and she took all the stuff and put it into the bag, and she zipped it shut, and she says, that's the way you're supposed to handle it.
Oh, goodness.
And she picks it up, and she goes over to the waste paper basket, and that old bitch, she went and threw it in the garbage can.
Oh,
And you can't say boo.
Yeah.
Because then they'll go and get a security card and you'll miss your flight.
Yeah, and they're really bad after like 9/11. It's like, we want you to change everything that you've been doing for the last, 30 years. And if it's not up to our standards, we're just going to throw everything away. Yeah. You don't even have an option. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I guess. Yeah, I've had to throw stuff away too. It's annoying.
I have been through security. One time we the later years, Audrey and I, we'd go through in wheelchairs. And I have been through where the guy says to me, you look good. And he says, just go right straight to it. They never even as much as looked at you,
Yeah.
And the other next guy can be just a plain SOB. I don't know. But that's the way it is.
Yeah. Ugh. Annoying. Airports. Yikes.
Isn't it terrible?
Yeah, it's bad.
What the world has spent on examinations of people since 9/11.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I wonder how many $1 trillion we've spent on that already.
Yeah, it's
in all those years.
It's definitely interesting because you like I said, you used to go to the airport and just walk right in and just sit down, and then you see your plane pull up, and then you're like, all right, time to board. Okay, here we go. And your family and friends could walk you out and everything. It was great, but not anymore.
Yeah. Then you look at all the later years, the flights that we used to take, and how packed the airports were, and now since the virus, they're empty.
Oh yeah, yep.
Boy, I'll tell you this. And what is it called? A pandemic?
Yeah, the COVID-19, the coronavirus, the pandemic.
Yeah. It's a mess.
Yeah, it is.
And then Trump is doing such a rotten job of it.
Yeah, it's
He once says,
a mess.
well, next week it'll disappear.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, seems like we're a while away from any of that happening. I'm going to move on to some just a couple of other things here. I don't have too many questions more, but I want to move on to some entertainment questions. So over the years, there's been many years of television. What are some of your favorite TV shows of all time? I don't know how much TV you got to watch, but over the years, what's your favorite TV show?
No, back over in the old days, you would never miss Gunsmoke. You know, back in the 50s and the 60s, Westerns were very, very popular.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you like Bonanza?
Bonanza. Yeah. That's the ranch where they was sitting on the Ponderosa Ranch.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Wasn't Lauren Green in there?
Yes, I think Lauren Green, and was that the one with Michael Landon? So
yeah, who was the big old guy? Oh, he died of a heart attack, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's big.
Yeah.
What's your favorite? Some of your favorite movies?
Yeah, probably Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, it's a great movie.
I've only seen that a dozen times.
Such a good movie. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Love that movie. It's pretty flawless, too.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
Yeah, well, it was impossible. You can't have a hole in your cell wall for years and nobody knows that you're digging at it. Audrey and I would sit here watching some Western movie, and the hero, he'd be coming down some trail, and the guy is standing there with he's leaning on a rock, and he's got a rifle, and of course he's only a couple 100 feet away, and he can't hit him. But the hero of the thing, he's riding down the same damn trail that's up in the rocks across the canyon. He shoots him with this goddamn 45 pistol.
Yeah. Oh,
and
man.
I'm sitting cussing out with a bunch of bullshit that's all this. Audrey would sit over there, come on, now it's only a move.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So I know some of your kids are like big into music, and my mom, she likes music. She's not a huge music person, but what kind of music did you listen to back in the day? You didn't like any of the...
I was not a great music fan.
Not a big music guy?
Your dad is a fanatic.
Yeah, he is. That's where I got it.
I just, when I think of your dad and music, I just sit there and shake my head. Because he is consumed by music.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. And I cannot be that way. Music does not control me at all.
Did you listen to any of the stuff back in the day, like Glenn Miller or Frank Sinatra, any of that?
All right. Now, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I knew some songs. I had songs that I enjoyed. I would say that 75% of them, I never did get to know their name.
Yeah.
I never knew who played in the band. Music was something that you listened to and you turn it off and you went and did something else.
Yeah.
It never was that part of it.
Gotcha.
Don't ask me why.
So my mom got that from you. So she's like, that's where my mom got it from.
I just, if I get too much music, I got to turn it off. Peace and quiet. I can get too much. We got guys that they're out here in the boats in the lake. There'll be a young crowd.
Right.
And I don't know, they jack the music up in that boat. And of course, sound on water travels like mad.
Yes.
And it'll spoil your day.
Yeah, they have some big speakers on some of those planes now too.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
You don't have to do that.
So speaking of my dad, when my mom was going to marry my dad, and you got to meet him for the first time, how was that? What did you think of that guy? What did you think of my dad,
Your
Lee?
dad?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have any opinion that I could.
You're like, who's this? Who's this hippie my mom's bringing back here? Who is this guy?
Well, I didn't know him, so I couldn't draw any conclusions.
Gotcha. Okay, that's fair.
But I do remember telling your dad that Tina is a nice gal from a small town, and she's had a good upbringing. And I says to him, "You better goddamn well take care of her, or you're going to have to answer to me."
That's awesome.
I don't know whether he remembers that or not, but
oh, that's good. I like it.
Well, I was concerned for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did my parents get married in Wisconsin? Was it at your guys' house, or where did they get married?
They got married in the Lutheran church in New London, and then we had the reception over at our house.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those are the pictures I've seen.
I had a friend that he had bought a business, and he converted it to something else, and he had an old bar in the shed someplace, and we dug that out, and I had a great big garage, and we put that bar up in the garage. And I remember that we had free beer all night and whatever.
Do you still drink? Do you still drink beer?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stopped the other day, and it was yesterday. I drove into town and got a couple of 12 packs of dark beer. It's called Point Amber.
It's called what is it called?
Point Amber. It's made in Stevens Point.
Oh.
It's a dark brew.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
like the taste of it. It's not cheap, but it's a good tasting beer.
Gotcha. Yeah, sounds
so
good.
So I drove up to the place, and I went inside, told them what I wanted for it, and paid them, and they brought the stuff out and put it in the back of my car, and I took off.
Fantastic. Right on. Awesome. Now, do you remember the first car that you ever bought?
Yeah. It was a 1954 Chevy.
1954 Chevy. Nice.
Yeah. It was a green car with a tan roof.
Green with a tan roof. Nice.
Yeah. It's real light green. The car was unusual. It had on the dashboard, it had one of these things called an automatic dimmer. When you would meet the car, the lights would go down. When it met other lights, the lights would dim.
Really?
And then when you would get by the car, the lights would go back up again. Your brakes would go on.
Wow. I didn't know they had that back then.
But one time I drove by a row of trees, and there was a car on the other side. The damn lights were up, down, up, down, up, down. It didn't work the best. It was a little thing that stood on top of the dash. It was bolted to the dash.
How long did you have that car?
Well, it was 54. In 1962, I think, I bought a small Buick station wagon.
Gotcha. So it lasted a while. It lasted a good few years. Not bad.
Yeah. It was a good car.
Good. Have you ever had any close calls or near-death experiences over the years?
No. I was in a car accident once. I was on an icy road, and the car slid off the road sideways, and when it hit the grass on the side of the road, it just tipped over into the ditch. It tipped over so slow. I remember that I put my hand on the seating so I wouldn't poke a hole through the seating.
So that's the closest you came.
I was never in a wreck. Audrey and I, we marked over the years that we were married for just short of 15 years.
Wow.
Neither one of us in their lifetimes ever had a speeding ticket.
Wow. So you're a pretty safe, calm, and collected guy.
Yeah, well, there's a number of times I could have got a ticket. I'm not. I wasn't a perfect angel, but I never got one.
No.
The closest thing I figured that I ever came to really getting it with a car is I was coming home from New London to the farm, and there's a steep hill where you went from the lower to the upper part of a rock ledge hill, you know.
Yeah.
And I was going up the hill, and there was a car that was just came across the top of the hill. He come right down the middle of a goddamn road.
Whoa.
And I remember that I swung to the right, and I got into the ditch. It was a very shallow ditch. And boy, I remember from that time forth, whenever I came to a hill, I got over to the right because I never forgot that.
Yikes. Wow.
So you run across a few close calls that you had, but
yeah, but it sounds like nothing too crazy. That's good.
no.
So you mentioned that you and Audrey were actually married for 15 years?
15, yeah.
15 years. That's a good run in itself right there. That's better than most people these days anyways. So what actually happened to Audrey as far as how did she die?
When did she die?
Yeah.
About 12 years ago, I think it was. Audrey she had a cough, and she couldn't get rid of it, and she went to the doctor, and he couldn't do anything about it. He sent her to a lung specialist up in Warsaw. That's about 75 miles north of here. And she ran across the doctor up there, and he took x-rays, and he kept pointing to a certain spot on her lungs. And he never elaborated on it. But she kept going back to him, and finally it came out that he had diagnosed her with superstitial lung disease. Now, it is out there, but they estimate that how many people we got in the United States? 250 million?
Yeah, something 300 million, something crazy.
Okay. 400,000 people die at this year. It's. I don't think that's a lot for all those people, do you?
You said how many people? 400,000?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I guess not.
But and they live roughly about 10 years after they're diagnosed with it.
Oh man.
What this disease is figure your lungs are like a stalk of cauliflower, like a shaft with a crown on the top. You know, it looks like a sprig of cauliflower.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what your lungs basically are. And anyway, your lungs, what they do is they take the oxygen out of the air and use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this fiber or whatever you'd call it that holds all these stems of cauliflower up in the air are the basis of your lungs. Your lungs are real soft and spongy. Did you ever have your hands on a lung of anything?
No.
They're like a foam rubber. Very, very, very soft. Well, what this disease does is that group of muscle or fiber or whatever it is gets harder and harder and harder until it reaches a point of where it affects something that will shut the system down, and then you end up dying. And Audrey, at the very end, she coughed a lot. She had a lot of trouble breathing, and the thing that really did her in at the very end, her kidneys shut down.
Oh.
And of course, you last a very short time when your kidneys go.
Oh, man. Well, I just remember my mom saying that she had talked to Audrey, and Audrey had mentioned her. Audrey's like a really smart person. She's very knowledgeable. She was a nurse, as you said. So she had told my mom, she goes, I know it's eventually going to happen.
Yeah.
And so basically, I guess the one, good thing that you could say is that she was able to say goodbye to everybody. And, I don't know. So it's one of those
at the
things.
very end, it happened so fast.
Yeah.
And it just surprised me because her son, Tim, his wife was working. And so Tim and I and Audrey went to a bar about 10 miles away from here that served Friday night fish lunches. Mm-hmm. And I remember that Audrey had a order of shrimp to eat. And she ate her shrimp and she ate them all. And we got in the car and we drove home, and that's Friday night. And the next day she did not feel good. Mm-hmm. And a couple of her kids were due up to see her, and they came up to the house. And by Monday night, she was gone.
Wow.
But that was that quick.
Jeez.
Saturday, she didn't feel good. Sunday, they brought hospice in. And I remember her daughter, Wendy, is the nurse. And she told me that her kidneys shut down. And that is going to be the end of her. And it was.
Oh, I got to say, I really liked Audrey. She was very very different than Muggs. She's very energetic, very hyper, very go-getter. Yeah. She's always funny. But yeah. She's always super nice to me and my brother and my mom, and very friendly. Yeah,
No, Muggs was a easygoing person.
Yeah,
she was happy if you made the decision.
Gotcha.
I usually took care of the money and paid the bills, most of them, and so on. Muggs did all the grocery shopping, and he more or less took care of the kids. And when it came to anything else, he says, you go ahead, Dub, and you do what you think is right. Now, Audrey, on the other hand, was a completely different ball of wax. She was one that was not going to let you do anything that you wanted, I would classify those two as Muggs was a follower, but Audrey was the leader.
Gotcha. Okay.
You can draw your own conclusions, and we never had. Of course, we kept all of our money separate.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, and we had a joint checking account, and if the money ran short in the joint account, we both put in a couple of thousand, and we were happy. We never had an argument over money in all the years we were married. And when she died, she put it in writing in her will that I could live in the house here until I could find other accommodations, which happened. But the sad part of it is the dang virus has come along. I was also always ready to move out, but now I'm stuck here because I can't get out.
Yeah, ugh. That's not good.
Yeah, but you're okay.
Well, I'm glad that you're doing good. You sound good. You're quick. You're a lot of people your age and a lot younger. Trust me, I used to talk to Medicare Advantage members over the phone every day. And the range of people and their health it's mind blowing to see or to talk to people. And you're one of the quick ones. You're one of the people that are like very with it. You have a great sense of humor. I remember last time I came out to visit, we were at that. What was that thing that they have? They have that thing at the lake where all the people are water skiing and things like that. It was kind of a cool little event.
Oh, that's
some sort of festival where they have like the high school kids.
That's something. It's a Lake Camelot clubhouse or something like that. The bar.
Yeah, they do all these like tricks and stuff.
They had the water show there.
Yeah. So they have all these like crazy acrobatics, like on water skis, like boats pulling all these people. Is pretty cool. But I remember you leaning over to me, and you're pointing at your skin, and you point at like some of your like marks on your skin and some of the, you're like, look at this. This is what getting old is. And you started pointing at it and started like making fun of it. And I always thought that was kind of funny because this is what it is. You get older and things just start happening to you.
Well, when you get old, the fat disappears underneath your skin. And then your skin becomes wrinkled, and your skin is thin. So if you bump yourself, you get a blood blister there real easy. And you can usually tell somebody that's old if he's got a bunch of blood blisters on the back of his hands and his arm. It happens.
Yeah.
When you were interviewing people, where did you find most of the category that you were talking about? The 70s, 80s, 90s?
It really ranged, but yeah, it was mostly, I guess, like people in their 70s, maybe 70s and 80s, because what we did was we scheduled nurse practitioners to come make visits, a one-time visit to Medicare Advantage members. And it was like kind of like a deal where they would come in and visit them, just do a quick checkup, and see if everything was doing okay. And we would try to talk them into taking advantage of it.
I do that. Yeah. You'll have somebody from your health insurance will send somebody to your house, and then they go through blood pressure and all that stuff.
Oh, good.
Go over your medications and then talk over how things are and everything else. They try and evaluate you to find out whether they want to keep on insuring you, right?
I think that might be something different. It was a lot of it was kind of they wanted to see kind of like a snapshot of the whole, like how they're living and stuff like that, just to make sure that everything was okay. I mean, there was like some of these stories that these nurse practitioners would do. They would come in and they would check their circulation, and sometimes they would be like, what is that smell? And like they would pull off their sock, and then there'd be like a rotting toe or something, something wild. And they're like, okay, we need to get this addressed. Or, there'd be like bad living conditions that they would be like, hey, we should probably think about, doing something.
In other words, you don't belong living alone anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, it's a range of different things, but, it certainly wasn't, malicious or anything like that. It was, So, because, some people are way, way off worse than other people. A lot of people are, if someone went in to see you, I'm sure they'd be like, all right, well, hey, great seeing you. You're actually doing well.
Uncle Ted.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, now his in-laws are living in their house alone. And they just have one hell of a time with them. And they're years younger than I am. And their body functions are so low that half the time his mother-in-law doesn't know where the hell she is. And they take most of their meals over to him. Some people, they just go to pop sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why... I love the fact that you're doing so well. I mean, as far as some people I would talk to that were, 30 years old and had some serious issues. And then I would talk to a lady that was 101 years old, and she'd be like, kind of like Audrey, where I'd be like, hey, yeah, so we're calling you because of this. And she's like, yeah, come on, get to the point. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So yeah, the range of people that, people age differently, and people have different issues, and it's
I'm at the point now where when I get the urge to work, I usually lie down until it passes.
Gotcha. Oh, well, I have one last question here.
Yeah.
I have one last question for you. If your life story was going to be a plot for a Hollywood film, which actor, past or present, would you like to play you? Who would you want to play Dub Hanson in a Hollywood film? Morgan Freeman.
No, of all the actors that are out there, I just like this guy. He has got a nice voice, and he's a good actor.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, Grandpa, I do want to thank you for taking the time out to speak with me today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you're able to continue to stay safe and stay healthy, and tell everyone I said hi, and thank you again for doing the podcast.
Well, I enjoyed talking with you. Someday when you don't have anything to do, you give me a ring and we'll just sit and shoot the bullshit. How's that?
Absolutely. Sounds like fun. We'll talk more in the future.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk to you then.
John.
Thank you very much, Grandpa. Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends podcast. If you have any questions or comments about today's show, feel free to leave a message in the comment section below. If you enjoy listening to the podcast, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow the show. And check out some of the video clips posted on YouTube and Facebook. I'm Josh, and thank you for being a friend.